This is Maya's so-called life. Hey everyone, it's Maya again, and this is part 2 of the Mount Holyoke campus tour. So today we are filming in my room because we are going to be looking at the dorms on campus. There are so many dorms. I don't know how many in total, but it's I think between like 12 and 15 dorms, so there are a lot of dorms. And I'm going to be kind of taking you around really briefly to each dorm. So because there are so many dorms, I kind of broke it up into 4 different groups. We're going to be starting with the green as I categorized them. So these are sort of the most sought after dorms. The thing about dorms at Mount Holyoke is that I think each person has their preference for dorms, but I don't think that there's sort of a universal agreement. There are some dorms that are maybe more popular, but I think everyone sort of defends the dorm that they live in, because I think that wherever you end up, you kind of end up loving your time there. So yeah, I've lived in 4 different dorms. I really enjoyed each of them for different reasons. So I think that regardless of what dorm you end up, whether it's more popular or less popular, there are people who are very loyal and really like their dorm. So another quick thing about rooms is that I won't be bringing you into rooms in each of the dorms, only because I don't have access to different rooms. But most of the rooms at Mount Holyoke are pretty sizable. It's not really a school where people complain about their rooms being too small. I know there are some weirdly shaped dorms, and then there are some smaller rooms, but for the most part I think we're pretty grateful for the size of our rooms because they're pretty decent. So the green is known as the dorms that surround Skinner Green, and Skinner Green is sort of the grassy area in the center of campus. It's right where the campus center is, and then so the dorms on the green circle, or on the circumference of Skinner Green. So we're gonna start with Brigham. So I lived in Brigham my second year. I lived on the 4th floor in a massive double. It was 280 square feet. Humongous double, and me and my roommate, we didn't even have enough stuff to fill all of that room. It was huge. So Brigham, at least right now, I believe is the quiet dorm. My second year, which was when I lived there, was the first year that it was the quiet dorm, and they were kind of piloting, but I think it stayed the quiet dorm. So a lot of people live in Brigham because they need the quiet in order to study through accessibility services. But other people can also choose to live there. I chose to live there. I don't know how well the rules were established for the quiet dorm and how well they were enforced. But I mean, I'm a quiet person and it was not a problem. Yeah, Brigham I think is one of the dorms on the green that's kind of forgotten about. It's sort of hidden. It's also next to one of the most popular dorms on campus, and so I think for that reason it kind of gets overlooked. So the second dorm on the green is Safford, and Safford is probably the most popular, or the dorm that people sort of try to get into most. If you live in Safford, it means you had a really good housing lottery number. Yeah, I don't know. I've always thought that Safford was kind of overrated. Great location. It's smack dab in the middle of campus. But despite being sort of the most popular or most sought after dorm, I don't think that Safford is necessarily any better than Brigham, which we just talked about, or Porter, which I'm going to talk about next, which are the 2 buildings that are next to Safford. But I think at this point it's just earned such a reputation. So third, as I alluded to, is Porter, and I lived in Porter my junior year. I only lived in Porter for half a year because I went abroad in the spring, but while I was in Porter, I had a double, and it was pretty massive as well. I feel like it was 240 square feet or something like that. Don't exactly remember, but it was a huge double. I did get a clip of my exact dorm. But yeah, I loved living in Porter. Porter was probably my favorite of my 4 years. It's right next to Blanchard, the campus center. I had classes in Porter, so downstairs I would just go downstairs to class. It's right next to a lot of the academic buildings. It's just, I don't know, it's in the middle of campus, and it was such a great place to live. I loved my room. Can't say enough good things about Porter. Fun fact, my first year, all of the dorms had Harry Potter themed banners, and I always remembered Porter because they had a banner that said Porter the Phoenix, and I thought that was kind of brilliant. Fourth on the green is Wilder, and so Wilder is one of the dorms that has a dining hall. I don't know how long they're gonna have dining halls in the dorms, but Wilder is our kosher and halal dining hall. All of the 4 dorms that I've mentioned so far are pretty old. They all have wood floors. Wilder is known for being haunted. Apparently a girl committed suicide, I think, on the 4th floor, and nobody wanted to live in that room, so I think it's blocked off. Can't confirm, I've never actually been up there, but rumor is that there's a ghost up there. My second year roommate refused to live in Wilder because she believes in ghosts. Yeah, Wilder on the green, has good food, is right next to the campus center. It's a great place to live. So 5th is Mead, and Mead is, I think, a really underrated dorm. I would have loved to live in Mead. I think it has one of the most beautiful common rooms on campus. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't say a lot about Mead other than great location from what I know and have seen, pretty big rooms. Yeah, I just think it's a really underrated dorm. Highly recommend. Okay, so last are the Rockies, and these are, I guess, formally known as the Rockefeller Hall. So there is a north and a south side of Rockefeller Hall, which we call the Rockies. The Rockies also has a dining hall. Probably my least favorite food, unfortunately. I do eat there from time to time because I think it's less busy and less popular. But yeah, they do have their own dining hall. It's kind of dimly lit, which I think just gives off kind of a vibe. But the Rockies has beautiful common spaces, is kind of known for being a party dorm. I think one of these past 4 years they've used it to pilot sort of a first year dorm. I'm not sure if they're continuing with that, but yeah, I think the Rockies is a place that a lot of people are really passionate about living in, and I've never really gotten that, but great location, nice to have a dining hall. I think the Rockies would be a fine place to live. Moving away from the 6 dorms that are around Skinner Green, we are going to move to dorms that are on the edge of campus, and they're only kind of 2 dorms. So one is Abbey Buck, which is the dorm that I'm currently live in. So Abbey and Buckland are 2 dorms that are connected by a dining hall. We have a beautiful dining hall. It's huge, has great salad bar. Food's okay, but it is so nice having food in your dorm. This is the first year that I've lived in a dorm that had a dining hall. And so I'm in Buckland. The rooms are pretty uniform. They're all pretty rectangular. You'll see in my room tour later this week my room looks like, and a lot of the rooms look exactly the same as mine. Abbey on the other side, pretty large rooms, also quite uniform. I don't know, the only downside to living here is that it's on the edge of campus, so if you want to go to the gym, it's like on the complete other side of campus, and that's kind of a bummer, but not too bad. Everything is less than 10 minutes away. We are also near Chapin, which is a sort of like performance area, concert hall type of place. And there are a lot of parties there. Some people in Abbey Buck say that they can hear the parties. If you don't like hearing parties, Abbey Buck, maybe not so great, but maybe your room won't be able to hear them anyway. So I've liked living here a lot. So next up is Creighton, aka New Dorm for some of us, because when we arrived to campus our first year, everyone was calling it New Dorm. I don't know if it was actually new or if they just sort of renovated it, but yeah, I've heard that first years don't call it New Dorm anymore, which is really weird. But New Dorm, or Creighton, it's got a very different feel from a lot of the other dorms, which feel kind of cozy and rustic and old-fashioned. New Dorm feels new, like it looks like a hotel and it feels like a hotel, and I think for that reason a lot of people like it. I personally have never been really drawn to New Dorm, but yeah, a lot of people really love living there. I think it's mostly upperclassmen that live there. Yeah, I think when you're in your older years you kind of appreciate sort of having your own space away from other people, and so the hotel feel kind of appeals to people. So last of the dorms on the edge of campus, as I'm calling this section, is Dickinson, and I didn't actually get footage of Dickinson. It's pretty far from the rest of the dorms, and I think it would qualify as off campus. So it's a dorm, it's like quite some ways down the road, and so Dickinson is actually a dorm for Francis Perkins scholars, and FPs are students at Mount Holyoke of a non-traditional age, so a lot of them are a little bit older. I don't actually know the limitations or affordances of living in Dickinson. I don't know if families live there or not, but it just seems like a really nice community for Francis Perkins students. So now we've completed the green edge of campus dorms, and now we're going to be moving on to the Lower Lake dorms. So there are 3 dorms that are sort of around Lower Lake, which I'll talk a little bit more about in the Common Spaces video, but Lower Lake is a beautiful part of campus, and there are 3 dorms. So there are the Dells, there's 1837, and there's Prospect. So first off is the Dells. I don't know if the Dells is upperclassmen only. Upperclassmen being like sophomores, juniors, and seniors, so no first years. But the Dells is a place that I will not ever live and will have not ever wanted to live in. Everyone who lives in the Dells loves the Dells or like has great things to say about the Dells. But to me it's just like, it just seems really far away and really secluded, and I'm not trying to walk really far when it's late at night and I'm coming back from the library. But yeah, so the Dells, I guess formally is called the Mandels. But everyone just calls it the Dells. There's the North Dells and then there's the South Dells. They have really pretty sunrooms. I discovered that during this campus tour, I guess, but not a reason to live there in my opinion, but so many people love the Dells and I don't really understand. I feel like a lot of Dells lovers might see this and be annoyed with my feelings about it, but yeah, it's very beloved. So next up is 1837. 1837 also feels like a newer dorm in that all of the rooms are exactly the same. The common room looks very modern. 1837 is also another dorm that I've never wanted to live in. However, the rooms are really nice. All of one wall is a window that faces either the lake or behind 1837. And the lake is beautiful. Like, I know people have done a picture every day from their window view and have sort of made like time lapses of the lake throughout the year, and those, I don't know, the views are beautiful. Is it worth living so far from buildings, classes, food, etc.? I don't really know, but yeah, I think that people who live in 18 become okay with living at 1837. Fun fact, 1837 is named after the year that our school was founded. Last up for our dorms around Lower Lake is Prospect. And Prospect, I don't know that anyone would defend the rooms in Prospect. However, Prospect has a dining hall, which is probably the best food on campus. I feel like a lot of people will agree with me on that. They just have great food. I got a little clip of the dining hall. It's massive. Food is usually pretty good. And so while the rooms in Prospect might not be the most preferred, I think that the food sort of cushions the blow of living there. So the last of the 4 groups of dorms are the dorms that are around the academic buildings. So starting with mcgregor. mcgregor is probably the farthest of the dorms, discounting Dickinson, which is the FP dorm. mcgregor is sort of on a hill, not a fan. Ham and McGregor each have their own dining hall. I believe they're connected. I don't know if it's Ham or if it's McGregor, but one of them is entirely a first-year dorm, which I guess is good because if you get used to living in McGregor, in my opinion, you can only go up from there. Yeah, the rooms are quite uniform from what I know. It's far from stuff, but you do have your own dining hall, and then you're also pretty close to the academic buildings, and then you're also right across from the gym, so that's kind of nice. So next in this academic building area for dorms is Torrey, and I've always thought that Torrey was underrated. So Torrey has massive rooms from what I know. It's right next to the gym, it's right next to the academic buildings. It does not have food, which is not great, but I think it seems like a pretty great place to live. People say that it's kind of creepy, which is kind of true. I think it used to be a mental institution, so there is that. The walls are very white. Yeah, I think the location is pretty good, aside from you have to go pretty far for food, but would not object to living in Torrey. And so last in this group, but also for dorms overall, and definitely not least, is Pearsons. And Pearsons is where I lived my first year. My room was 196 square feet, which was pretty decent for a double. It was very weirdly shaped. We were at the end of the hall and it was very narrow. Pearsons has a pretty ugly common room. I will admit the wallpaper looks pretty antiquated, but there's a lot of common space. There's a sunroom. I think kind of has a reputation for being a party dorm, but yeah, I think that Pearsons, I don't know if it's underrated or overrated. People really like it. I liked it a lot. It's across the street, which a lot of people think is way farther than it is. It's really not. It's right next to the library, which is very convenient. It's pretty close to the academic buildings. You do have to walk for food, but that's pretty normal. And I think Pearsons was a great place to live my first year. So that is it for the dorm portion of the campus tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing a lot of the common spaces within the dorms where you can study and hang out with friends. I wish I had more footage of rooms, but all the rooms really look different, except for a few dorms where the rooms are pretty uniform. Oftentimes, no room will look the same as another room in the dorm, so it wouldn't be that advantageous for me to show you. Would have been cool, but yeah. So overall, have really liked the dorms and the rooms that I've lived in my 4 years. Haven't had many complaints. Sharing a bathroom, not always the greatest, but also not terrible. They're cleaned most weekdays. If you enjoyed this campus tour, whether you've been to Mount Holyoke or are planning to go to Mount Holyoke or are just interested in what campus looks like, subscribe please and stay tuned because I do have one more part of this campus tour. I'll be looking at the common spaces, so places where people hang out and study and that kind of stuff. So that's coming soon and hope to see you then.